Dulcimoon community. It's me, Erin Mae, and I'm here to answer the question of the week. This is a new thing that DJ and I are doing during our summer fundraiser time where we want to just serve our community and help answer some of your questions. So, the question of the week today comes from Gale who asks, what's a good cheater method or rule of thumb to know what mode you are playing in as you retune your mountain dulcimer for a tune? So I have a couple of tricks that I'm gonna share with you today. Number one is a mountain dulcimer specific trick. So if you are a mountain dulcimer player and you are retuning your dulcimer to play in different modes, the tuning of the dulcimer, of the drone strings, is going to dictate what key you're in. So if you are tuned, for example, to D, A, D, the drone strings must be tuned to the root and or fifth of the key that you're playing in. So in D, A, D, D is the root, D, E, F, G, A is the fifth, which means I'm playing in the key of D. So then if my melody string is tuned to D, my scale starts on open. And when you're playing a scale starting at open on a diatonic mountain dulcimer, you can play either an Ionian scale using the 6.5 fret or a Mixolydian scale using the 6th fret. So if you tune, for example, to D, A, A, your drone strings are still D, the root, and A, the fifth, but now your melody string is tuned to A, which means your scale can't start at 0 because your drone strings are not in the key of A, your drone strings are in the key of D. So what you do is you count up on the melody string to find the D note. So A is open, B is 1st fret, C sharp is 2nd fret, D is 3rd fret. So now you're in a tuning where your scale starts on the 3rd fret. When you're playing a scale that starts on the 3rd fret on a diatonic mountain dulcimer, you're usually playing an Ionian scale with the possibility of a Lydian scale using the 6.5 fret. So I have a little cheat sheet here with some of the common tunings for mountain dulcimer. So you can see the DAD and DAA scales that I just referenced, where the scale starts at 0 in DAD and the scale starts at 3 in DAA. You can use this for any mountain dulcimer tuning. You identify the key that the drones are in and then where that key note is on the melody string based on the tuning you're in. So when you're in DAC tuning, then your scale starts on the 1st fret, and you can play in the Aeolian mode using the 6th fret, also the Dorian mode using the 6.5 fret. DAG tuning is a Dorian tuning, and then if I go down a little further, DGD and EAD are a couple of my favorite tunings. These are called reverse tunings because the key that you're in is the note that's on the middle string. So you'll notice in DGD, no longer is the middle string tuned to the fifth of the key of D, right? D, E, F, G. It's tuned to the 4th. So some people think of this as a 1-4-8 tuning, but it's not really that because you're not in the key of D anymore. Instead, you're actually in the key of G. G is the key that you're in. A, B, C, D is the fifth of the key that you're in. And therefore, your scale starts on the 3rd fret because when your melody string is tuned to D, the 3rd fret is where you find the G note. So you want to figure out what key your drones put you in, always using root and fifth, and then what fret your scale starts on the melody string is going to give you the kind of mode that you can play in from that position. Another kind of trick that you can use is to look at the key signature versus the note that the tune kind of revolves around. So this is sometimes, but not always, the first note, but usually the last note of a tune. So for example, if I am in a key signature with 2 sharps, usually I predict that that is the key of D major, and that would be my Ionian mode. However, Sometimes when I see that key signature with two sharps, it appears that the tune is sort of centering around an E note, ending on an E note, possibly starting on an E note, but definitely coming back to an E note a lot more often than the D. That tells me that I'm actually looking at a piece of music that's in the E Dorian mode. If I see the same key signature of D, but the tune seems to start and end a lot on an A note, then that's telling me I'm in an A Mixolydian song. Or sometimes with the Mixolydian mode, what you'll see is the seventh note of the scale will have accidentals on it. So it'll look like it's the key of D major, but every time you see the C note, it's going to be a C natural instead of a C sharp. That's another indicator of a Mixolydian mode tune. And then finally, the Aeolian mode is the relative minor of the major key you would expect. So when you're looking at that key signature with two sharps, if the tune seems to center around a B note instead of a D note, then we're probably in the key of B minor in the Aeolian mode and not in the key of D major. So those are my two best tricks and shortcuts for identifying what mode a song might be in. So on a mountain dulcimer, if the scale starts on 0, I can play Ionian or Mixolydian modes, depending on the 6 or 6.5. If the scale starts on the 1st fret, I can play Dorian using the 6.5 fret or Aeolian using the 6th fret. If the scale starts on the 3rd fret, I'm usually playing Ionian. Lydian would be my other possibility. When the scale starts on the 4th fret, I am in Dorian if I'm using the 6th fret, and I'm in Mixolydian if I'm using the 6.5 fret. So, that's a lot to hold, but I hope that helps a little bit to unpack the shortcuts to knowing what mode a tune might be in. And we are doing these questions of the week every week through summer. So if you have a question about mountain dulcimers, hammer dulcimers, or music theory, drop your questions. They can be sort of technical questions, instrument-centric questions, or how does music work questions. So drop them in the comments below, and we will pick another question to answer for you next week. And we are doing all of this as part of our summer fundraiser. So right now, we just surpassed the goal of having 100 donors. We're actually sitting at 101 people have donated. Yay, thank you so much. And our next big goal is to get to $2,000 donated, and we are less than $100 away from that. So it would just take 3 donors at the $30 level or 9 donors at the $10 level to bring us up to that next goal. So consider checking that out and help us keep the Dulcimoon programming going forward. Thank you all. Happy Monday.